Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this video in which we will do the opposite of what we did in the last video. This time, I'll give you the graph and you have to find the equation of the exponential. So here we have a graph of four exponentials, a, b, c, and d. For each of them, we will find their equation. It will be of the form y equals a to the power of x plus b plus c. So there are no dilations here. So sorry, I know that my drawings, it doesn't make it always easy to see the points, but bear with me. So let's go through one by one and find their equations. Let's start with graph A. So we know it's going to be of this form here. So all we need to do is find the values of A, B, and C. So remember when we were graphing these that C is actually the asymptote, or y equals C is the asymptote. So we can find the value of C very quickly from the asymptote. So if we look at A, well, its asymptote is y equals 0. So that means the value of C is equal to 0. In other words, this red graph here has not been shifted up. So when we found the value of C, we can find the value of B by looking at when the graph is 1 above its asymptote. So let's look at what that means for this graph here. So we just found the asymptote was here. So when it's 1 above the asymptote is here at 0. So because it's 1 above its asymptote at x equals 0, we must also have here that b is equal to 0. So this is just a graph of the form y equals a to the power of x. So if we want to find a, we can just sub in any point, like this one, 1, 3. And of course, if I sub in 1, 3, x equals 1, y equals 3, I get this, a equals 3. So I found a, b, and c. The equation of graph A is y equals 3 to the power of x. Okay, let's now look at graph B. So graph B, same as what we saw in graph A, asymptote at y equals 0. So it hasn't been shifted up or down, so C is equal to 0. So now we can find the value of B by looking at when it's 1 above its asymptote. So we can see here, it's 1 above its asymptote at -1, at x equals -1. So that means it's been shifted 1 unit to the left. So remember, 1 unit to the left means that this number will be positive. The B value goes in the opposite way that you would expect. So B will be +1 because it's been shifted 1 to the left. So now we have our equation y equals a to the power of x plus 1. All we need to do is substitute in a point to find a. So we could, for example, substitute in the point here 0, 4. So if we did that, we would have 4 equals a to the power of 1, a equals 4. So the equation of B is y equals 4 to the power of x plus 1. So let's look at graph C. Well, it's had a reflection, so it should be, A should be less than 1. But let's go through these processes anyway. So here, I know it's not always clear from this graph, and I apologize, but here the asymptote is y equals -1. This has been shifted down 1, so the value of C in this graph is C equals -1. So let's look at where it is 1 above its asymptote. So its asymptote's here. It's 1 above its asymptote at x equals 0. So that means it hasn't been shifted left or right. So now to find the value of A, I can substitute in a point. I don't want to substitute 0, 0, because that won't help. I'll try this point here, -1, 1. So I'm going to substitute y for 1 and x for -1. So let's solve this equation. Adding 1 to both sides, I get a to the power of -1 is equal to 2. So then what I can do here is raise each of them to the power of -1. A will be a half. A half to the power of -1 is 2. So therefore, I have my equation for graph C. It's y equals a to the power of x -1. Let's look at the final one, graph D. So in graph D, I know it's not easy to see, the asymptote is actually here at y equals 1. So now let's look at the value of b by finding where it's 1 above its asymptote. So if the asymptote's here, it's 1 above its asymptote here when x equals minus 2. So we have shifted this 2 units to the left. So remember, going to the left means b is actually positive. So here, our equation is of the form y equals a to the power of x plus b plus c. So if we want to find the value of a, we can substitute in a point. So let's do this one here, 0, 5. X equals 0, y equals 5. So what we have here, nice and simple, a squared plus 1 is equal to 5. We'll just take the positive answer, subtract 1 from both sides, square root, and we get a equals 2. So the equation of graph D is y equals a to the power of x plus b plus c. And then we're done. All right, thank you so much for tuning into this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.